So anyway, and they're a family because they have like interests, and we have families, and we have our schools, and we have other activities. But the most important one is we belong to eternal family. And our biological family might become part of our eternal family. We hope they do. And we hope our other families that are like interest family become a part of our eternal family. But in the end, the most important family is the body of Christ. It's the one that will be together forever and ever and ever and ever. So we are family. And because of that, I've already considered Eastside my second family. You know that, don't you? Do you all know that? You're my favorite church. I speak all across, but this is the church I love coming to. I don't know whether it's because of Georgia hospitality. I don't know what it is. I'm driving through the swamp to get here. I don't know. There's something about your church, but also your church has been the longest contributing church to our ministry. There's nobody who's done as much as you have. Now, we have some individuals who've given, but there's not been a single church who've done as much as you have. So I want to read 2 Corinthians 13 for you, and I'm going to show you a slide tour about what we're doing. Because of the proof given by this ministry, they will glorify God for your obedience to your confession of the gospel of Christ and for the liberty of your contribution to them and to all. While they also by prayer and behalf yearn for you because of the surpassing grace of God in you. Thanks to God for his inscribable gift. You guys are a gift to us and our ministry and what we do. Tito is going to give me a video to show you all tonight. He has a welcome to you. I want to share what happened. But because of his brother, we did not connect. He did send a picture. He was with my wife today for lunch. So said, I'm having a good time with your wife when she was here. And at least I think that's what it's translated in Spanish. My Spanish is not good. But he has a video which I'll send to you, Pastor, and you can show the church. But incredible things happened this year. I don't know if you know about the flood in Pioro. The northern part of Peru had a massive flood. Many people died. Our seminary was wiped out in the flood and all that. And yet we were able to send in medicine. There was no way to get medicine for malaria and other things. And we were able to send that in because the gift. And Avianca Airline partnered with us. And we were the first people to get aid in to help the people in that part of the world. And the church has blessed because of that. So I'm going to take you on a tour today of what you all have done. This is not me, this is we. This is what your money has gone to, your offerings, and you all have given it faithfully and diligently to us. So let's just start with the first slide. 3 years ago, I began to look for a successor for All-Star Ministry. I searched the world over, trying to find somebody who will take over this ministry. I met with many men. I traveled the United States. I interviewed person after person, and finally, about 6 months ago, it was in May, I sent a letter to my board and to former staff people. Says, I just want to tell you this, if God does not show up to bring a successor August the 9th, 2018, we will be closing down All-Star Ministry, and this will be the last summer for us. And I said, like Abraham, I'm laying it on the altar unless there's something caught in the thicket. God has another plan. Then this ministry is closing down. I don't know what that means for all the churches and the seminary we have around the world, but at this point, I'm closing down. I felt led I need to do something a little bit differently. Well, this is Dr. Joel Nunley and his wife, Peggy. Peggy came to me at 15 years of age. She was one of the first all-star missionaries that came. She was the most broken girl I've ever seen in my life. How I met her was, her mom and her were walking by, and her mom literally took her and pushed her like this. And she fell and tripped and fell into me, and I caught her. That's how I met this young lady. This lady had grown up in a home that was abusive. They brought in foster boys. They sexually abused her over and over again. And by the time she was 15 years old, she was the most dismantled human being I've ever seen in my life. Could not talk, she looked at her feet, I'm sorry. And just the way she was. And I began to talk to her. I said, you know what? I said, maybe you stumbled into me for a reason. Maybe God has a plan for you. Why don't you go with me to Hungary? I'm taking my first team to Budapest, Hungary, and I want you to come with me. I can't do that. Our town is small, and we only have one stoplight, and that's all our town had. I can't do that. I said, Peggy, would you trust God? And Peggy made it. She went on our first trip to Budapest, Hungary. Out of that, I have never seen such transformation of a human being's life. From being this broken little girl, and one day our drum used to have shipmacks in it. We were pirates, and we were doing this gospel presentation using pirates in there. And she had to hold her arms out for 5 minutes, and she just cried because she couldn't do that. And one day she comes in and says, I felt God lift my arms up, and fires are coming out my fingertips like that. And all of a sudden she became one of the most incredible soul winners you ever seen. One night she came to me weeping, and I said, Peggy, what's wrong? She said, I didn't lead anybody to Jesus today. I didn't lead anybody. I said, well, Peggy, there might be days like that. She said, no, if I've been born to be light and salt, I should make a difference somewhere today. I said, Peggy, just go out and talk to the Lord about it on the porch. And this is Budapest, Hungary. I said, just go out on the porch and sit there, and I'll come out and talk to you in a minute. Well, about 10 minutes later, she came walking in with a whole group of girls. And found out they were walking by our youth hostel. She got in with them, led them to the Lord, brought them back for Bible study. 14 girls she led to the Lord.
Amen.
She's the girl that on Southwest Airlines, flying from St. Louis to Louisville, Kentucky, went up, God told her to go up to the microphone and use the microphone to present the gospel. And she went up, got the microphone, and presented the entire gospel on Southwest Airline PA system, and 8 people came to Christ. And they did not stop her on that. And the stories of her life, even now, has just gone viral around the world. She's one of the most gifted Bible students. She can preach better than I can. She has a heart. At 18 years old, she left to move into the Gambia to work with the unreached people group of the Gambia. The Gambia still has, I think, 14 unreached people groups. She left as a white girl, moved back into the Black Africa to work there, and still is working in that part of the world. Well, in May, she came to me and she said, I need to talk to you, Walker. And I said, okay. And I said, let's meet a few minutes. So I walked her, I said, let's talk. And she ran away. Now, Peggy is the most boldest person you ever met in your life. I mean, she's not fearful of anything. I can tell you story after story what she has done. And, I mean, the stories are incredible in this young girl's life. And she kept on running away from me. I said, Peggy, what's going on? She said, I don't know how to tell you this. I said, what's that? She said, for 2 years, God has been laying on my heart to take over All Star. And my husband believes that we're supposed to come as a couple and take it over again. And so Peggy is moving from Indiana. Her husband is a ER surgeon in Scottsdale, Indiana, I think it's Scottsdale, something. And they're now their house up for sale. And immediately God began to work. So he's ER surgeon. He did get a job in Tulsa. The next day he got a call from Tulsa and said, would you mind moving to Tulsa and work for St. John's Hospital as the head ER surgeon for our hospital? Let me pray about it. Okay. And then their house is up for sale. Just put it up yesterday. And another doctor called and said, we're moving to Scottsdale, Indiana. Do you know any homes for sale? Well, his homes is for sale, okay? And God is working and doing all this. So Peggy and her husband are moving there, and we're starting a medical division of All Star. So we've been doing medical work, but we've been working with their ministry, Breaking Border. Now it's going to become All Star Medical Division. And so now we'll be working. In fact, she and I and her husband and my son are going to Israel and to Jordan next Tuesday. And we'll be starting next January. We'll have our first full medical trip for just doctors and nurses into the refugee camps in Jordan and stuff. So we're setting that up next week, I guess. That's next Tuesday, isn't it? Next Tuesday. So anyway, and people say, what are you going to do? Well, they're setting medical camp. Well, I've been telling everybody I'm going to start a cheese company in Nazareth, okay? And call it Jesus of Nazareth, okay? And we're going to just have cheese. I don't know what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to follow them and working and making contacts and stuff. So anyway, her and her husband moving, and they're going to be taking All Star. I'm shifting. Go to the next slide. I'm starting a ministry called Back 40 Ministry. My grandfather was an immigrant from Ireland, and when he came to the United States, he homesteaded, and the government gave him 4 40-acre sections, okay? Each section 40 acre, 160 acres, 40 sections. And when I was growing up, my grandfather was a farmer, and I asked, where's Granddad? And the answer is always the back 40. Okay, you lived in the front 40, but you worked the back 40. Have you ever heard the term back 40 before? Oh, good. I'm in Georgia. I feel home. Okay, so I am now spending 75% of my time working on overseas. Peggy will pick that up, and I'm going to come back to help. Like Paul says, I got to revisit the churches. And so I'm starting a ministry to come back to refocus and help churches that are declining to get back on board, get refocused, and begin to grow again. And what I require is when I come in, I take over the church. I take over the staff. I take over the deacons. I take over the workers in the church. I take over the church. And I first meet with the staff, and I teach them. And what I'm moving for them to do is not to do like Eastside ministry, but to do Jesus ministry. And I preached on that before. We do Jesus ministry every day. What we're going to do today, we're going to do Jesus ministry. Guess what we're going to do tomorrow? We're going to do Jesus ministry. And Jesus ministry you can do anywhere, any place, any time, under any circumstances. Church ministry you can only do when the church is open or something's going on. But Jesus ministry is a lifestyle, so we're moving churches to do that. So already, I'm supposed to start August the 9th, but I already have 5 churches I'm working with already. And the first church that called me said, can you help us? Our church is declining, we need your help. And I said, sir, who are you? He said, my name is Max Lucado. So I've been working in San Antonio with Max Lucado. He had left his church. The church had gone down. And just recently he stepped back into being the pastor of Oak Hills Church in San Antonio. So I've been training his staff. I've been training his workers. And I've already started preaching in his church to help them get turned around. And it's really working well because their youth ministry used to run 600 in their youth ministry. And for the last year, they've been running 100. So they dropped 500 in attendance. And now they're back up to 400 again because they're putting back in Jesus ministry. So I've been working these churches. So I'm going back to the United States to begin to work in churches to help strengthen them and get them back on missions and begin to work with us and partner with us to do missions around the world. So I'm still going to do missions. I'm still going to do All-Star. I'm still going to be in the office there. I'm still be writing all the material, but I'm going to spend as much time at home working with the churches. Because I only have a few weeks I'm not out of the country. So when I have time to come home, I only can select a few. Now I can do more churches and help out. So that's what I'm doing. Next one. Also, I'm coming out with a series of books called Chicken Lips, Snake Legs, and Jesus. Okay? Stories of humor and hope. I think sometimes we've gotten so bogged down by the church and by church life. Well, we got to go to church again. Got to be a church, So I have stories I want to tell. One of them is the one I just told you about, the baptismal board, okay? And there's a whole series of them in there. And the reason it's called Chicken Lips, Snake Legs, and Jesus is because of my brother. I have a brother 17 months younger than I am, and he's an entrepreneur. And when he was in high school, he got a job working for a gas station like you see all over Georgia. It sells beer, bait, and has a gas pump out front. And a big oil slick, every time a truck comes in and pulls out again, there's an oil truck there. You know what I'm talking about? Got like 2 aisles, and you go in there, and that's basically what it has. Well, he started working for this little gas station, and they also sold chicken, but nobody ever came in for the chicken. They just came in for the beer and the bait. So my brother put a sign out front, world's best chicken lips, okay? $1.50 a pound, okay? Well, people started pulling in to buy chicken lips, okay? Must have been city folks because, chickens don't have lips. They come in there and they go, we'd like to try a pound of those chicken lips. He said, I'm sorry, I just sold out. He said, I wish you'd come in here a few minutes sooner. He came here sooner, I would have some, but I just sold out. Now, I do have some other parts, the thighs, the breasts, and the legs. Would you like some of those? So they went out with a whole sack of chicken minus the chicken lips. Okay? Well, that really took off, and people started driving from all over that area to get the chicken lips. But nobody got there in time. They all were sold out. Then he came up with a 2-meat combo. Half chicken lips, half snake leg combo with fries. Okay?
Oh my.
Well, you think people were serious about chicken lips. You ought to see how many people are really serious about snake legs. Okay? They started coming in there, and again, the same story. I'm sorry, we're all out. But we do have some other parts left. And that station today still sells chicken lips and snake legs, and they have a combo there. But everybody knows it's sold out when they go there. Well, that's what religion does. It sells you chicken lips and snake legs. You get to religion, and you get there, guess what? It's not there. It's missing. and they promise you the moon, but when you get there, if you just give $1, God's going to bless you back 1,000. You know, if you just put a seed over here and all that kind of stuff. And you know what? That's just the work of the devil. And see, you need to know the real thing, and you need to know what's real and what not real, okay? So out of this, 2 of these are real, 2 of these are wrong, and 1's right, okay? Chicken lips, snake legs, and Jesus. So there's stories of humor and hope for you in there, and that'll be coming out in March. In fact, I have actually 1,000 stories already written to go in a series of books. Now, that's pretty good for a kid who grew up dyslexic and special ed student, isn't it? That I was able to do that. So that's coming out. Next one, let's get on to the real stuff here. Okay, let's get to Panama. The work in Panama is exploding. I will show you here in a second. As you know, this is my home away from home. I live in a hut. I live there in hammocks, and the young people there, they have mosquito built in, and this is just my life when I go to the mission field. No running water. In fact, we have to use a special system to purify water called a life straw system. We do the big 5-gallon bag of purifying water. But if you don't have purified water, you don't have anything. You have to leave and go back because water is essential in that part of the world, and especially to stay healthy. So we had to bring our own stuff in. We had 22 students on one team, and we had 18 students on another team, and we divided up Panama, and we worked all summer just literally sharing the gospel. Next slide. This is where I started out. Remember this slide? This is the first Kuna lady I led to the Lord. Now, I put in, what's that thing, ChristianMatch.com, and this is what I got right there, okay? She loves mission, loves Jesus, but as you know, they're all short people because they don't have protein in their diet. They eat bananas and fruits and stuff, and so therefore they're very short. And she became the first believer. And then all of a sudden the church began to grow. We began to disciple this lady. She reached out. Go ahead to the next slide. And then we added more to the church. And this now is actually the WU group for the jungle. These are the Embara people group here. And God began to go from village to village, enlarging it. Now let me show you the church here, okay? And, baptize this guy. The church grows. We're baptizing people. Go to the next one. And now the church, can you see them behind there? Man, we have a massive pack out of this. I think the next slide has it. Go to the next slide. We have 8 churches now that came out from that one lady and that small group of people. We have now 8 reproduction, ongoing churches in the jungles of Panama. Awesome. And they're the Kunas, the Embara, the Shikos, and they're reaching other people group. And God is using them to not us go out, but they're now going out on their own, and they're reaching the other tribes for Jesus Christ. And so this is just a section of them right here. This is just the children of one church that we have. And this is Pastor Raul, and he does a marvelous job. And he has 5 churches that he's pastoring himself, of the churches that we have. And he's training pastors to take over there. So this is what you invested in over the years. And see, one lady come to the Lord, and all of a sudden their handful come to the Lord, and we can disciple them, put a pastor, and then they begin reproducing. And next thing you know, we have 8 full churches going, okay, from this one little spot right here. Next one. And this is the Embara. You always can tell the Embara because they tattoo themselves or they color their skin. You see the black shoulder to that? They use a juice called the Java juice. And it's a nut. They grind up, they fire it up and melt it down, and then they get it almost to a paste, and they mark on your arm. When you wake up the next morning, the markings has turned blue. So her whole shoulder is colored that. Her face has got markings on it there, and these are the people that we're reaching for Jesus Christ. And I will tell you, the love of Christ shows up in them. They're to love Jesus. This is part of the church here. They can't wait to tell other people about Jesus. So, next one. And this is Pastor Luciano. I told you about this morning, those 7 lives. I don't think he'll be living long. He is just near death because of the heart, 7 stabs to his heart when the Columbia rebels came in and stuff. But you know what? Every day, today he's preaching. I don't know how many times he preaches a day. Sometimes 3 times, sometimes 4 times, sometimes 5 times. He preaches Monday night, Tuesday night, Wednesday night. And I have lived with this man for a long time in the jungles. And he and I share the same room. And every morning at 4 o'clock, he gets up and he prays for 2 hours from 4 to 6. Every morning, gets up and prays. And I said, Pastor Luciano, I said, why don't you get up and pray? He said, why don't you get up? He says, I said, why do you get up and pray? He said, why don't you get up and pray? Oh. You know, he turned the question on me, and so when I'm with him, I get up at 4 o'clock in the morning, and we pray together. But he's just praying that God will keep on giving strength and power. That's Marty Pieper, who's the editor and minister of prayer at All Star. And so this guy, you need to pray for Pastor Luciano or Pastor Seven Lives, if you want to call him that. Next slide. This is the next missionary. This is my grandson, Titus. Already, he's 4 years old, and on an average Saturday, he'll hike 4 miles with me. And I'm teaching him already how to live in the jungle. He knows how to use a headlamp. He knows how to go into the jungle. He knows how to do a backpack. Because you know what? We need to raise up the next generation of missionaries. And I'm looking at the congregation. Where's the next generation of missionaries in this church? I don't see many young people here that should be stepping the gap. You know, we got some people my age, and we got some younger people, but I don't see the middle age here. And we ought to be concerned about that, and we need to do everything we can to get them back into church, because if we don't, there's going to be a gap. You know, you're going to pass away like I am, and then there's going to be a group 10 years before they ever get ready to go to the mission field. And we need to keep going here. But this kid is one of the best hikers you've ever seen. And we always call it adventures. Let's go on an adventure, Poppy. Let's go on an adventure. And we adventure about every week. Last week, a couple weeks ago, we went spelunking and into caves. And he and I climbed into caves looking around and trying to find bears. Well, there are no bears in Oklahoma, so, well, not where I'm at. There's some bears, but not where we were. So we're trying to find bears. But right here is a snake. And what I did was I was trying to teach him how to handle snakes. So I had a rubber snake, and I had it in my pocket. I said, look over there, Titus, and I throw it about 10 feet down the middle of the path. And I'm trying to go, Poppy, a snake. Stay right there, Poppy. I know how to handle it. And he goes, Poppy, now you get it behind the head. You don't grab it by the tail. You reach behind the head. And here he's showing me how to handle a snake here. And then I take it and I put it in my backpack, and we go about another quarter of a mile. Then I have him look over there, Titus, and we found another snake. We caught like 5 snakes. So we're having some snacks here, sitting there eating. He said, Poppy, I just can't figure it out. I said, what's that? He said, how's that same snake down in your pocket all the time? Well, I busted on that. So this is the hope for the future. Next one. This is Peggy in the Gambia, Africa. We're going back to the Gambia this year. There's the country we're going back to the Gambia, do medical work and mission work, planting churches, reaching out to the unreached people groups there. We're going back to Hungary. This is All Star 25th anniversary. So we're going back where we started 25 years. Do you know all the churches we're working with, All Star started 25 years ago? And that's the coolest thing I've ever seen, to go back. The kids that work as interpreters are now the leaders of the convention for Hungary, and Hungary is exploding right now. God is doing a work. When we started here, when the wall fell down and there was nobody who was a believer, the Communist Party, Arpad Ravis, who was the one pastor, was in prison for 20 years by the Communist Party for preaching the gospel. And he said it was the best thing ever happened to him, because he trained all the pastors. When the wall fell down, he had like 150 pastors that came out of prison ready to pastor churches, because he trained them in the prison while he was with them. All things works for the glory of God. Okay? So we started working with the pastors and Arpad Ravis and the kids we led the Lord 25 years ago. They're 15. Now they're what, 40? Yeah, 40 years old. And they're the leaders of the church. And we're going back to work again to begin to reach some other areas that needs to be reached. So Peggy's now, again, she is the future president of All Star. And her husband would be on the team doing the medical side. Next slide. Here we are just sharing people. We do the drama. We had funny things, because we took 13-year-olds, 14-year-olds, 15-year-olds, and they're all doing medical work. They're doing AIDS testing, malaria testing, pregnancy testing. They're doing pharmaceutical. We had a 15-year-old kid that ran the pharmacist, and he ran it the entire time when we were in Hungary. We had kids, a guy named Noah, who gave all the injections and stuff like that. One day he said, I gave 17 shots today, you know. And he didn't know anything about it. Now he is, and now he's going to school. He just graduated in December. He's going to become a physician assistant to go back to the Gambia to live there. In fact, he's going back to the Gambia this summer. He's not coming back home. He's staying there, going to take a year gap to invest his life into the Gambia. Amen. Because Eastside helped us to put this together We got people who are still being called to missions, giving their lives there, and they're all around the world.
Amen.
So here they're out sharing the gospel, leading people one-on-one. We got Pastor Martin, who's our contact. And in fact, when we met Pastor Martin, he wasn't a believer. He started the First Man Deacon Church in the Gambia. That church now has turned into seminary, and it's now sending students out all over to the place where Ebola broke out and everything. While everybody was running away, we were sending pastors into the area to minister to people with Ebola.
Wow.
So that whole area has just been covered by what has happened over the years to minister in that part of the world. Nobody else goes there. How many times you heard it? I just came back from the Gambia last week. You will not hear them because nobody knows where it's at. It's off the map. It's off the chart. It's hard to get there. It's very expensive to get there, but they need Jesus.
Amen.
So, next slide. Here we are doing. The Africans really get into the drama. I mean, when we're doing it, they like it, and they don't think we know how to worship very well because we're kind of home the frozen chosen sometimes. They can worship. So, next slide. Now, this is who we had show for baptism in the country of Peru. We went up to the north because, remember, we've been working the whole north corridor, and we have started churches in every little district up there, and we have reproducing churches going on. All-Star Seminary is now December the 7th, it was 17 years old, and we train pastors. Every pastor who comes to our seminary who is a church planner gets his education free. It's a 5-year seminary, and we'll pay his education to get his master in theology if he plants churches while he's going to seminary. I think I've shared this with you before, but the very first pastor that graduated from us, I asked him what he did in 5 years. He started the Church La Union Church in Peru. That started 6 other churches. So he started 7 churches in the 5 years that he was going to seminary. And those 7 churches had 24 mission points. So I put all the 24 mission points and those 7 churches in one room. It was 880 people. So we have pastors who are doing that all over Peru. And this last 2 years, we went up to the east side over the mountain to Huánuco. We're splitting our seminary in half and starting a new seminary there. And that has gone really well. So now we're leaving it because the seminary in Piura has taken over the seminary, and the pastors have moved to the area, and they're training pastors to go to the Amazon River to reach the last people group in the Amazon River. And so we're now moving to a north part called Moyobamba. I just like those. I like saying those words. Moyobamba. I'm going to Moyobamba. Okay. Moyobamba is the orchid capital of South America. It's almost like going to Hawaii. I hate to say that because most of my life I've been spent in the garbage dumps of the world. And I slept on the ground, been in mosquito-infested places. And this year we got a team going to like the nicest place on earth that you don't know about, Moyobamba. It's famous for its hot springs, and they have all over. They're not even big enough to airport, but there's not an evangelical church in Moyobamba yet. So we're going in with Tito for the summer, and we're taking our students from the seminary, and we're going to start planting churches in Moyobamba to reach out to the other Tarinta and what's the other city? Anyway, there are cities around there that don't have any evangelical churches, and we'll be using that as our starting point after we get the church started to begin to evangelize the other part. So we never stop taking a church and reproducing, disciple, train, equip, send, train, equip. You're on your own. You don't need anything from us. Now you keep on going. You start supporting other people, and it works that way very well. So anyway, let's go to the baptism here. Next slide. Here's witnessing the people there. We had many people get saved. I don't remember how many got saved. It was like 1,200 and some people that came to Christ in this mountain city. And we baptized them. Next slide. Here we are baptizing there. That's Pastor Raul Domingo, and baptizing the people that were saved during the summer. Everybody who's led to Christ is followed up within 24 hours. We don't let a day pass us that somebody in the home begin to do a Bible study. The next day, they're already in Bible study. What does it mean to have salvation? What does it mean to do this? And we have trained so many people to follow up. I think that's part of our key and our success to All-Star is equipping and the training of the people who come to know Christ and were immediately in their home. And that's in every country, whether Peru or the Gambia, whatever. Every new believer is 24 hours. We never let them get old before somebody's in their home with them. Next. We're in Mexico. This is Maya Hudgens. Maya Hudgens is an incredible missionary. If she was in here, she was just so full of joy. It just flew over the pews all the way to the back here. She just loves Jesus. And she loves homeless people about much as she does Jesus. God has called her to that. And her mother is a youth pastor at Greenville Church in Greenville, Texas. Her mother, her sister, and her father got involved in mission because I took them on their first trip. I took her mother to the mission field 40 years ago. 40 years ago, I took her mom, her sister, and her dad on their very first mission. She was 4 years old, her mom was, when she went on her first mission trip. And God began to work in her life. And now I'm not only taking her mom, her dad, I'm taking Maya. Maya has 3 other brothers and sisters. All of them have been on the mission field too with us. So I have taken now generations of family, and their family has produced more missionaries. And guess what? Maya, when she has children, they will be on the mission field. I guarantee you that. Okay? And she's leading the team back to Panama this summer. And she's going to OBU in Shawnee, Oklahoma, taking journalism. Next slide. You see this little girl? We have some elderly ladies in our church. They're in the Gone to Glory class, or almost Gone to Glory class. They don't know if next Sunday, who's going to be in the class because they're that age. Some of them are in assisted living or in some pretty bad off physically. And our church and All Star got together and we asked, you know what they did? You know what every one of those older ladies know how to do? I don't know how to say that nicely. Elderly ladies. They all know how what? Knit. And we got the bright idea. Why do we organize it now? And from July till January, they made for me 500 hats, scarves, clothing, and toys. Bags and bags and bags and bags. And those things has become one of the best hooks for us. We said to them, we got in Mexico December the 26th, freezing cold outside. They don't have heaters in their home in that part of Mexico. They don't have any way to keep warm. And we said at the end, we got a free gift for everyone here. We got some gloves, and we got some hats, and we got scarves for you. So at the end, after we get done with our presentation and share some things with you, we had gifts for you. It was 23 degrees, ice on the road, snowing, and the Hispanics stood out there waiting through the whole presentation. They got saved and got gloves, a scarf, and a toy. And we gave away so many, but we still had a bunch left over. So in March, we're going to go back and pass them out, the rest of them. But those ladies go on. So I take pictures and send it to those ladies. And this is one of the girls' hats that was made and the scarf that was made. Okay, next. Here's a little toy. It's just a little stuffed animal thing. They just put a little cat or a little something, and they put stuffings in it, and they draw little eyes and nose, and nobody in America would care about that. But any part of the world where it's third world countries like that, that is a precious gift. And there's a scripture verse on everything we do. Every animal has tags on it, that so when they get home, it's in the language of the people. Next one. This is 3 toys this guy has. This is a grandfather in Mexico that has been injured and cannot work. And he has 3 granddaughters. And he came up weeping. He said, I could not get them anything for Christmas. I am a terrible grandfather. I have nothing for my granddaughters. He said, could I, any way possible, get 3 of those? I said, yes, I'll give you 3 of them, but I want 5 minutes of your time. At the end, he got more than 3 animals.
Amen.
He got 3 animals, and he got eternal life, and he got Jesus.
Amen.
And there he's grinning from ear to ear because Jesus came into his heart, and he got something. So we gave him a tract for him to go home and tell his granddaughters. You see, you don't ever lead people to Jesus. You lead them to Jesus, but you have to give them an assignment as soon as they get saved. So I need you to go home and sit down and read this little tract to your granddaughters and tell them about Jesus. And then in here, I want to show you how you lead them to Jesus. They feel led to. I want you to lead them to Jesus. So he was on his way to see his 3 granddaughters to tell them about Jesus and give them a stuffed animal. It's the least of these things that God uses so many times. That, and these ladies who are laying in this assisted living, they can't walk, their hands are arthritic, they can maybe move the needle, but they can knit, and that's all they can do. I sent them word. I said, ma'am, you better start knitting more. I tell you what, people are coming to Jesus because of you. And they're so excited that God is using them at 90 years of age to bring people to Christ. They just weep. Every time I send them back with pictures, I send them pictures, and I got a lot of them. They go, I said, another one saved, and they got Jesus, and they got a hat or a scarf, or they got gloves, or they got dresses. Now they're making clothes for people, and we're taking them to the Gambia and different parts of the world. So anyway, if you know anybody in your church that can knit, next time I come by, I'll take them back home with me. Okay, next slide. This is Caesar. Caesar, I've known for years. I say that loosely. He is a churro man. You know what churro is? In Mexican, it's like a long skinny thing, but it's a donut basically. It's rolled into cinnamon and sugar, and it's the Mexican form of. In fact, I have a picture in there to show you. And I'm holding one up in my little tongs there. I have tried to share the gospel, and I see this guy probably when I'm in Mexico at least once a day. I run into him over and over and over because he follows the crowd. He knows we bring a crowd. So he said, where are you going next to do your gospel presentation? So I'll go down the main plaza down there. He said, okay. I get there. I don't know how he does it, but he gets there before I does. Has his little churro stand set up, and he sells churros to the people listening to the gospel. But I said, Caesar, I need to talk to you. I said, I want you to teach me how to make churros. He said, no. And he wouldn't talk to me. And I kept on going. In fact, I took some people with me to try to pray for him, and he wouldn't let us pray for him. And finally, 2 years, I kept on going. Well, it was December the 27th. I was walking across a part of Nuevo Laredo, and I run into Caesar. I had a girl with me who was bilingual. I said, you see that man? I said, I've asked him for years to let me learn the craft of churro making. Because I found out when you get in behind their booth and you start doing what they do. If you ever smell my Facebook, I've done about everything you can do in Mexico. I've been a taco maker. I've done about everything. If you go to a flea market, every little booth that cooks every little thing, I've done everything but churros. So I went up there and I said, would you tell him that this is my last year to come into Mexico, and that I'm going to be very sad because I've been coming here for 40-some years. I still don't know how to make churros. And he's the one man that can make my dream come true. From a little boy, I dreamed about making churros. So this girl went over and told him. And she almost started crying. Said, that man over there has come to you for years and years asking you. And all of a sudden he looks up and he says, Venga, come. And I tell you, I did not know churro making was so detailed. Because for an hour and a half, he berated me because I didn't do something right, and I didn't roll it right, and I didn't have the sugar cinnamon mix right. And he wanted me to make the perfect churros, okay? And so here I am with my first churro I made, and Caesar was led to the Lord on January 2nd. He was baptized and a member of the church.
All right.
Okay. Took 2 years. going to him, going to him, going to him, going to him, going to him. No, 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 no. If you want to sell you churros, I don't want to talk to you. And now he's my dearest, best friend. Look at him. I mean, look at this. I mean, we're just laughing, carrying on, because he made my dream come true. And you know what? My dream to make churros was a dream. My dream for him to become a believer was even greater than making churros.
Right.
So, next one. Here I am. See, look at me. Hey, am I not a world greatest churro maker you ever seen? You prick that thing, it comes out, you wipe your finger off, you drop it in 450 degree heat, grease there, you fry them, and you have to turn them over, then you put them into the sugar, cinnamon, you roll them over, then you have to stack 5 to a bag. So I started doing a video, like I'm doing a TV documentary of churro making. Next thing you know, we probably have 100 people. I sold 80 bags of churros while I'm standing there.
Wow.
And so now he wants me to make churros for him all the time. So, okay, next one. Well, this one he threw away. I picked it back. That was my first churro. It's all bent over. It's not supposed to be straight. It's bent over backwards. I don't know. He was just disgusted with it, you know. I said, I want to keep this one. This is my first one. So I kept it, and I got hungry and ate it. So next slide. One of the things that God has opened the doors for us is the prisons in Mexico, the maximum security prison. We are the only group that gets into the maximum security. There's 9 sections to the prison. 1 is women, the other 8 are men. They're there for most of them for life, for violent crimes. And people keep on saying, how do you get into the maximum security prison? We can't get in. Well, I said, you need to know Hugo. The next slide. Hugo, you see the guy in the middle? That's Hugo. Hugo is one of the cartels. You know what the cartel is? The mafia in Mexico. He was captured and sentenced for many years into the prisons of Mexico. He was put in a tower. He was so bad and so evil, he was put in a tower away from the rest of the prisoners because of his violent behavior. We were presenting the gospel inside of the max security prison, just got inside the front door and just could do a little area there. He was in the tower. He could not hear us. He didn't know what we're saying, but he saw the death, burial, and resurrection of Jesus Christ. The Holy Spirit came upon him, and he fell to his knees and repented of his sin and became one of the most strongest believers I've ever met in my life. Just from watching from a long ways off in a little slit in a tower where he could look out, and he saw it, and he understood it in the Holy Spirit. Well, after he got saved, he started ministering to all the rest of the cartels in the prison. In fact, he would go to the cartels outside. He said, when you come and visit us, the other cartels coming in to visit the prisoners, he said, bring me a concrete block, bring me a concrete block, bring me a and he built a church inside the prison. There is a real church, pews, concrete blocks, a cross, everything, inside the max security prison on the soccer field, right in the corner of the soccer field, that is having church every day because of Hugo coming to Christ.
Amen.
They called him in after 3 years. They called him in and said, we don't know why, but somehow you've been given a pardon. And they gave him a dismissal paper, and he walked out of the prison. You know what he did when he walked out? He made a U-turn, went right back in, and kept on preaching and teaching Jesus. Just like in Acts. They kept on from house to house, right on preaching and teaching Jesus as the Christ. Hugo now is the head of prison ministry for this part of Mexico. When we go into the prisons, and we have no guards on us, we have freedom to go everywhere, anywhere we want, and no one touches us because Hugo goes in the day before we come, assign the cartels who are going to guard us. So we have the mafia that goes before us, they're around us, and they protect us. And everywhere we go, we are just as safe as anybody can be. I mean, if one person harm us or touch it or take a microphone or touch our PA system, they will not be alive the next day. So these guys who guard us takes it so seriously. that we went and walked down from one section to another. You go through a fenced hallway, going down from one section, open another. They have men standing on each side of the fence to make sure that we don't get close to the fence because somebody might reach through and try to grab something. So they stand along the fence and they guard us. And all the way to the time we get in to the time we leave, we are the most guarded people on the face of the earth. Because nobody dares to touch the cartels. Isn't it funny that God uses the enemy to advance the gospel? Amen. Isn't that incredible? I mean, God uses the mafia as our best friend in Mexico. And so here's Hugo and I, great man of God, great man of God. I love him. He was showing him, he had to have his picture, his Bible in the picture, because that's the Bible we got him when he got saved, and he's still using it to preach the gospel. Next slide. I've traveled a long journey. In fact, this year is my 45th year of doing what I've been doing. All-Star 25 years old, but 45 years ago I took a step going into all the nations. 45 years. In fact, anybody want to guess how many miles I walked this year across the world and back? Anybody know? Just walking. I have one of those little Fitbit things there. I can tell you how many steps I take. Last year I walked 2,922 miles. That's from Canada down to Mexico. I walked the length of the United States, from Canada all the way down through the United States, 200 miles into Mexico. Last year I walked from East Coast to West Coast. You go from San Diego on Highway 10 to Jacksonville, Florida. I walked the clear distance of walking across the United States, equal to that. I did 2,341 miles of going from village to village, place to place to place to place. But I know that God has called me to get off the road and come back to the church and to the back 40. All-Star's still going to go. We're still going to be part of it, still going to do our like that. I just need to get more people on the mission field. We got to come back and strengthen the churches. If the churches are not strong, what we're doing will disappear one of these days. That's right. And we see that. Ever since 9/11, we have not recovered from 9/11. When the plane hit the tower, I had 300 students on one team alone in that year. Since then, we had like 300 students on the mission field for the summer. And almost everybody who started with us are out of business now. Team Mania. I go through all these other organizations. They're all gone. Because there's nobody sending from their churches out to go into the mission field to all the world. So would you all pray? Would you all pray for the Lord of the harvest to raise up workers? We need that. We need that. We could use 1,000 students this summer. We could use, and yet we'll probably get several hundred. Mom and Dad, we got soccer camp. We got this and that, and the church is not important. Everything is taken first place, and this has become second place. So I just pray that you will pray diligently, and I know your giving has been tremendous toward us. Like I said, there's no one like you. So what you saw up here today is not me. This is you. You help make all this happen. You make the churches in Panama happen. You make the churches in the Gambia happen. You all help make the churches in Hungary happen. Everywhere we go, there's a part of Eastside with us, and you are part of us. And this is my report to what we have done together. Because I know many of you can't go, but you can give, you can pray. And many of you can't give, but you can pray. Do something. And you can't pray, give, or go. Make a hat or a stuffed animal. Do something for the kingdom. Amen. Don't take a pew. Don't sit there taking up air. Do something for the kingdom. That's right. Amen. And in that, we can see Jesus moving again. Amen. So as I'm walking out, there's one more guy. I'm going to show you who's going to take my place. That's my newest grandson, Cohen the Good-Hearted. The word Cohen means priest in Hebrew. So he's named the priest. The good-hearted priest, as I call him. And I'm praying that soon, as his brother is already learning the skills of a missionary, that within this year, he will start taking up the journey of me training him and equipping him. In fact, Titus upset that he can't go to Mexico with me. He cries, because Poppy, I want to go the adventure with you. Oh, Poppy, please. And he has a map on his wall, and he follows me on my journey. And we talk about the people that hadn't heard about Jesus yet. His heart is broken already, that we need to go. Poppy, let's go. Let's go. I said, I want to. My desire is I get to take him on his first mission trip. He's 4 years old, so I think he'll be ready by next year to go. His mom and dad hadn't agreed to that yet. But Poppy has, okay? We can take him on a mission trip somewhere across town or somewhere, but we're going to start doing sharing Jesus together. Any questions? I know it's already a little past time, and any questions you have for me about All-Star, what we're doing, how this church is partnering with us, and Tito has another whole story. It's 2 hours long to tell you about what God is doing. Yes?
Why did 911 have such an effect?
Number one is that people begin to worry about flying. There's a fear about flying, airplanes being targeted, especially going out of the country. Are there going to be terrorists? And people in America does not know any place. When I was hungry, people were calling me and says, "Can you see the missiles in Iran?" They thought I could see from Hungary the missiles hitting Iran. And I'm going, no. And they said, we don't even let our kid go across the street anymore. Let's get on a plane and go somewhere in a foreign country we've never been before. So mission has dropped 90%.